Okay, I'm gonna call the building and site subcommittee meeting of November 1st, 2021 to order at 6 o'clock exactly. Departmental to review the chamber summary.
Thank you, Scott. Is this on?
Button on the bottom.
Oh, no.
Button.
Look. Thank you, Scott. So first item is the change order summary report. This is for the month of October. Show a copy in front of you. We have about a dozen change orders on there. The net cost of the change is actually a credit. We're reconciling some of the allowances from the summer work. There's two larger change orders that are just under $10,000. Some of it is for some additional concrete work at Erie Elementary School. And then there's a couple of change orders on there for the administration building, second floor. We're under renovations right now. We're targeting to complete that renovation by Thanksgiving time. Fortunately, part of the scope of work is to replace the windows there. And those windows were leaking. There was some damage that we uncovered during construction. So we do need to have a little bit of additional work to replace those. New windows to copy, and we won't have a problem in the future, but there was a little bit of additional work to replace some windows that were damaged over the last 20 some years. Yeah, it wasn't major. We did hold about $10,000 to replace them still, but it really was not that bad. It was much worse. Water was pretty well contained where it didn't leak. I'm not sure if you got any questions on any of those. If there's some large allowances that we're getting back, because a good side of things, we did set aside money to replace some wet insulation to the roof for all the roofs we replaced this year. And fortunately, we didn't have that. So there were areas we didn't think it would be wet, and they were not, so we were able to leak the existing insulation that was there. So that amounted to almost $30,000.
I have a question about the Erie Elementary, $9,900 one. So this concrete replacement, was it just eroded worse than you thought when you first did it over time?
Yeah, so Erie is very unique in that it has a completely concrete parking lot. Most of our other parking lots are all asphalt. So when we've done work over there, we've tried to identify the worst areas. Because you just don't know where to start and stop, and we don't do the whole lot. So a year ago, we identified, about a year ago, we identified the worst spots. And then I think just over the winter, those areas were right by a catch basin, which was failing and caused that concrete to fail worse over the winter time. So it was after the contract had been issued, after the drawings were done. It just happened to be one spot that did fail over winter and got worse, so we identified that as a spot to take care of now, rather than try to let it last for another project.
Okay.
Yes. Yeah, we rebuilt the storm structure. We break it all the way down.
You would break it all the way down, yeah. But yeah, you all concrete, this are standard concrete collars everywhere. And we also added some drain tile around there too. We just found that over time that extra drain tile around the concrete structure helps pull that water to the concrete basin. So we did kind of did the belt and suspenders approach with it. So that's our standard now. It's not only concrete structures, but also putting additional drain tile in the structures to help pull that water towards that catch basin line.
And just cut a square out.
Well, it wanted to be like a giant S shape by the time we're all done with it. Because it wasn't only the concrete collar, it was about 500 square feet or so. I think it's more than that. So it was a much larger area that was done. It was right out where the catch basin was. It started to crumble.
Okay, then the only other thing I had was what did you use for the window?
It's a synthetic product, similar to what a Fourier would be. They currently have wood sills. One of the few, this building, I think the only building in the district has wood sills. That's why the water caused damage to them.
So we're not gonna have that problem.
So yeah, we're going back with a synthetic product that will last. I'll last this building.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay.
So this will come to the full board 2 weeks from today for formal. So the second item on the agenda, I just wanted to give you an update on the bond issue. And the real intent of this is that we're gonna be coming to you about a month from today with contract award recommendation for next summer. And it's gonna be over 10 million, could be upwards of $13 million of work, depending on how much of this savings you want to use. It is phase 4. So we've done fairly well up to this point. We've got good savings that we can use. But now this is the appropriate time to do that. So I wanted to try to give you as much information as possible, let you ask some questions so that you're best prepared, so that when you come to you in a month now with some recommendation from administration, architects and engineers, of what to do with those additional funds, you feel very comfortable what we're recommending to you. So with that, I'm going to just do a brief update of where we've been. Let's go to the next slide.
Sorry about that.
All right. So we'll briefly recap the last couple of years of construction to let you know what we've done, where we focused on it. And then the second to last bullet is where we're going to spend a little bit more time on this. So this is a recap of the bond program. The bond program was passed back in November of 2018. So we really didn't have a lot of time to get a lot of work done in 2019, but it was passed in 18. It is a 5-year program overall, and it was a total of $98 million. Out of that $98 million, the construction portion of it totaled about $54 million, or a little bit over half that bond program. So phase 1, we cherry picked some of the highest priority projects that were very critical to try to get done in 2019. It was only about $3 million of the work, but again, we didn't have a lot of time to design things and get equipment here. But we focused on the secure entrances, the failing roofs, some electrical failing, the electrical gear. This really took care of some real high priority projects that first year. And all that work got done, it was right on budget, everything went smooth that first year. So in phase 2, we were able to really start to, we picked up a lot of the other priority projects district-wide. We were able to do a lot more work in that second year of it. We did about $9 million of the work, really focused on safety and security. That was really the selling feature of this bond program. We went to the community. I can't remember the exact logo, it was build safer or build, I forget how the logo was. It was all about safety and security. So we knew we had to roll that out within our first year of the bond program, our first 2 years of it. So we installed door hardware. We got a lot of hardware from the classroom side. We installed an emergency alert system with a loophole system throughout the district. We moved Cheyenne's office, created a secure office there. And we installed impact-resistant glass throughout the entire inside of all the buildings here. So right now, they've got a 6-minute rated glass, so if some intruder did come in, try to break into a classroom, they're going to be beating on that glass for upwards of 6 minutes before they can get through that. It's not bulletproof glass, you can shoot through it, but the glass will not fail and not fall. So similar to like your windshield in your car, it doesn't shatter and fall down. It does, if it ever gets impacted, it stays with it, it keeps its integrity, so it's when it can't find through it. Then we had some other miscellaneous projects. We improved the parking lot at both here and Ojibwa, and both left for safety reasons. Help better split the parking lot, the staff, the student drop off from the parents and the bus traffic. Those are now split at both of those. So it's kind of safety improvement there. So I'm calling this stage 2B. So if you kind of follow the timeline, this is sort of when COVID hit, and we wanted to start to reprioritize things. So one of the things that we pulled up in the scope of work was the water bottle fill station. That originally was going to be done later on in the bond program, but we thought that was very important because of the nature of COVID. So we installed water bottle fill stations throughout the district. 2 in both the elementaries, obviously more in the bigger buildings. But those are all installed sort of as school was starting to get back into motion and things were kind of that hybrid schedule was going on. We were installing these during the school year. Those are all installed now. So phase 3, this is what we just did this past summer. Really what we did, the first couple phases really focused on district-wide priorities, but we knew later on in the bond program really needed to get more strategic. We couldn't have contractors running across the district and really get efficient. So in 2021, we focused most of our efforts in the center part of the district or the township area. So we focused on the elementaries, the middle schools, and the high school in that center part of it. A lot more efficient, got up better cost pricing by doing that. It wasn't anything really remarkable, the curb got redone at the high school, which is great. And some other projects, but a lot of roofs, boys and parking lots, it really was what the bond was, site for safety. It really was a meat and potatoes type bond program to take care of those items that are now getting past 20 years old. So we had to replace those items. So that was about $13 million, which is the biggest summer yet. And we got all that stuff done. We had a little bit of challenges, obviously, trying to wrap up some loose ends, we got some hardware that we're trying to finish up right now, but for the most part, those contracts are closing out. So phase 4, I just want to spend a little bit of time with, just so you understand what we're going to be bringing towards for you in a month now. So this is really focusing on a home concept school. Now we're moving to the north. So we're going to pick up those 4 elementaries that are north of Hall Road, Cheyenne, Gibble, Fox, and Mohawk. And for the most part, it's the roofs, boys, and parking lots at those buildings. We're going to do Iroquois, Seneca. Again, more roofs, boys, and parking lots. And then also the Dakota campus. So majority of our work is going to be right there at the corner of 21 and Hyde, right? This coming up summer. So the schedule that we've got in this right now, we actually just got drawings this morning. They're on the street right now, basically out for bids for the next 3 weeks. Bids are due on November 23rd. We want to try to take this before Thanksgiving, so we didn't lose momentum on the holidays or interrupt people. It's always very tricky time bidding in November because we got punching season and Thanksgiving. So you got to kind of find that spot. So it's up to bid. Once we take those bids on the 23rd, we've got about a week to review those. We'll be presenting those to the administration with some recommendation of alternates, how they shake out. As you probably know, pricing is much higher than it was 5 years ago when we put this program together. So we built in a lot of alternates. I think we've got almost 20 alternates fit in this project to help us control that budget. We know that the base budget is about $10 million for the work, and we know we've got about $3 million of savings between contingency and cash project. So we've got a way to measure that, and really what we're going to do is bring to you a shopping list. So these are the things that can fit within our base budget, and this is how we can spend the additional projects. So we're trying to maintain as much of the original scope, but also give us some flexibility to award contracts. What we don't want to do is come to you with a problem, a week way over budget, and say, now what can we cut out of here? We want to try to come to you and say, what do you want to add to this project?
Right now, it looks like we're projecting $500,000.
Yep. So the next slide kind of is a quick recap of it, very high level. So that first line on there, completed projects. So far today, were the first 3 phases of it. You'll see the first number on the top right is we're about $2 million under budget. So right now we're ahead of the curve there. The other thing is the third to last line of contingency. We really just started to scratch the surface of that contingency. We have a little over $3 million in contingency. We've only spent about $400,000 so far. So we've got almost $3 million still left in contingency there. That could go towards projects. So right now, the second line down at 2022 projects we bid back before. The original bond budget was about $4 million. We know just because of today's market, we're definitely going to be over that number. So we know that there's going to be a delta. We also know there's been a lot of other projects that have come up over the last couple of years that weren't originally anticipated in the bond, but this will be an opportunity time to do it. So a situation would be at Cheyenne Elementary, we've had the fire alarm failing us just recently over the past year. Probably is the time to look at replacing that because that's such a critical function of the building that we should look to replace that with pricing on it. If we don't do it, we can kind of try to keep doing repairs. That's just something that's very critical over that.
Yeah.
At Fox and Mohawk Elementary, the 2 major roofs are starting to really fail. The amount of roof leaks is just compounding, growing every single way of that. We just can't keep letting those roofs. I mean, we can, but it's just they're just keep leaking. There's not enough repairs that we can do to those roofs to take care of it. It needs to be replaced. So projects like that are very critical. The roofs, boys, and parking lots are the things we're taking all the time. They're not flawed, we're not building it lots. These are just critical needs to your building. And either do now or you're going to be doing the near future. So doing it in place, you got to wait now. So yeah, overall, if everything would, as we planned, everything, we still would be $500,000 to the good, which is the spot we want to make sure we're kind of keeping us in. So if something does come out a year from now, we've got ourselves in a position where we've got some next on that on the budget side.
Jeff, you say $500,000 to be good, that's from that $3 million.
Yes, we start to shake everything out, kind of leaving $500,000 contingency. Because that's what contingency is there for, is to protect us from the next big thing comes up that we didn't plan.
It's, prices on the roof going up. Since the time this was there.
say alternate, what do you mean by alternates? You kind of, maybe go a little further in that, explain that. Please.
Yeah, so Fox Elementary is a good example. Fox Elementary School, when we did the original assessment for this bond program, we identified the addition we built in 1998, got a roof replaced there. Because that roof at the time was already 20 years old. It had outlived its normal life, it's been doing real well. So that was what we planned to do. The original part of the building, that roof on there was still under warranty at the time and was still trending to be good. It had broken down or created a lot of leaks in that. But just over the past year or two, that roof has just started to give away, started to fail. So what we're gonna do is the contractor, they're gonna give us a base bid down to replace the addition of the 1998 portion of it, as part of the original scope. Then they're gonna give us an alternate price to replace the roof on the main part of the building. So we'll have several of those alternates, and we'll go through it just, almost like a shopping list, and say, what do we wanna do? We've got about $3 million to spend. What do we wanna prioritize those additional projects? Same thing with parking lots. We got some parking lots we identified in the original bond. Ideally, it'd be nice to do the entire parking lot all at once, but there's parking lots that are, still got some little bit of life left in it, so we made those alternates. Because if we can't do it now, if money's not there, that's fine, we won't do it. But we can definitely still do what we originally committed to doing, with the original scope of work, with those really important parking lots.
Then, you said about, so far, about $500,000. I'm just trying to wonder how, you know, in this, right now, people getting employees, workers and stuff, and I think it's amazing that we got all this work done for this period of time still. But that had cost overruns, you said, right? Because of having to pay more and trying to get them veterans out to do their jobs. Is there any advantage, just closing this, I'm saying, do this to push back work maybe till things come down a little bit and have some price savings there? Or, I mean, there's many things like big roofs and things like have to be done, maybe a parking lot. Is there's something you push back to still employment gets back a little bit more towards normal, pricing gets back towards normal? Although inflation could go the other way too, I guess it's sort of a gamble.
So the things that we've identified in that category there is some mechanical equipment. Things that, you know, they can go any time now, but if you got a building that's got, you know, an elementary school typically has 3 boilers in there, you know, that they cycle through and pull up and down to meet capacity. We said if we can't do the boilers, that's something we could bump another year out. Because if, right now, we're just concerned about actually getting the boilers in time, because they're running almost 6 months lead time right now today. They're gonna keep getting worse. So we know that those are products that we start to talk about. We met with Ken Howard, talked about that.
So you are doing this
So
already?
like if Erie has 2 chillers, we don't have to do them, we can only bump 1 chiller away, we can still get by and live by some repairs on the existing ones to keep us manageable. So we thought about those, building a few of those type projects. I'm very concerned with the county, my number one concern. I think we can get roofers, I think we can get pavers. I'm not sure we're gonna get the equipment in time because of distance. There's so many small pieces of parts that they just can't build those. That's why they're telling us right now, you know, some of these things are, you know, over 6 months. By the time we work contracts in December, they could be 7 or 8 months, which means we're not getting them until August. At that point, you can't pull the trigger and replace it, because we can't start school without those pieces of equipment. So that's what we're using for that contingency is mechanical. I'm just gonna wrap this up here, I'm gonna go for time.
Jeff, I just have a quick question. What's the time period that you're allowed to spend the money to? What do you have?
You have to spend 85% of the money within 3 years, and we're already 50% spent, so I think we're turning pretty good. If we, I don't know, Scott, I don't know how the technology and bus purchases of furniture are going there, that's kind of the same as the structure.
So typically it's 85% within the first 3 years, but this, we only sold 75 million of the $98 million bond. So there's a second series that we also have coming that we haven't sold yet. So really, we're 85% of 75 million, and we should be there by the end of next summer.
So we have to be careful if we delay things that we don't.
However, COVID is a huge example. The Department of Education, they know what we're dealing with because everyone's dealing with it. Like this, there will be plenty of opportunities. If we ever get into a bind, they'll extend it. So I'm not worried about that.
I just want, I agree, with you, but I also, construction, I don't see things going down. We just put his splash pad for the township, I heard, it's like 500,000, and I heard the next, Macomb Township wants to put it on it. And it's gonna be the same thing, 750. So I don't know the price. People have kind of decided not to, do the same jobs they were used to doing. So, I don't see people going back to doing some of this work, and we're so short of Michigan contracts. I hear what you say, Randy, and I'm willing to follow,
So, top of my head, just throw it out there.
but I don't know that it's,
I think you're right too. I mean, inflation too, it's kind of bit more money than others. So.
well, then, what is it, 5.9% this year? I mean, I don't see prices coming down for long. But I understand what Jeff's problem is trying to get.
I think the environmentals did a great job of coordinating through this COVID period and getting our bond.
I think it's, the school district did a lot during that.
Just a quick question, maybe for Scott or so. So, I know it's, for 2 years out, but I mean, if you had to talk right now, where would we look at for our next fund? I mean, how, at this point in time, I know it's possible to forecast, but just a shot in the dark, where would we be for further bonding? I know we were pretty much topped out, passing this bond to what we could ask for, pretty close. So how's that changed now, 2 years later?
Well, again, one of the reasons why we sold the bonds in different series was because we wanted to extend this period as long as possible. So the remaining 25 million that we still haven't sold yet, when we do that, which I don't project us having to do that until at the earliest next spring, that gives us 3 more years of opportunity. So bonding wise, it all depends. I mean, where are we going to be with taxable values for non-homestead and homestead properties? Where is inflation? There's so many variables right now that we could deal with. What's in different these bonds? I mean, all that comes into play with where all this could end up. And right now it's too scattered. But from our vantage point, we still have another series of bonds to sell. Once we do that, then we'll have 3 years to spend those. Those should give us at least along the way. And again, it all depends on what happens with our building.
So this 500,000, so check this for the first step.
This is all construction. So for them, it's all the construction work that's based on their budget. So we still have money left in our technology budget. We still have buses that we're still part of this fund. So we have things that still need to be purchased that, again, from a technology standpoint, we're looking for that money to be used for the second go around with 21, which is only 4 years.
Our proposed, aid packages coming forward, say for example, numbers that's been talked about now, 1.9 trillion, or have you got any glimpse? Will they include construction for education and any of that budget? Is there anything in there for that, or is it just strictly for other means?
Honestly, I have not read it because it seems to change. I mean, it was 3.5, 4 million. Now it's down to the 1.75 trillion. I haven't looked at it. It would be nice if they firmed it up and not started going with it, so we can at least look. But honestly, I have not looked at it. I don't know what part of it.
Well, okay, so we're able to extend the 2010 bond out until 2018, 19. So we can just fly out into the 2020 somewhere before we get back to the community, unless they come up with a better practice of state efficient for our school districts. Especially the ones like this one that were expanding wildly, back in 2005, 2010. So, just always worry about that. Seems like we're always up against that key. The rest of the money, seems like Washington, so they give us, for extra, it's going to be used for student loss in the district, students from population. So, from the shape of ours. Thanks, Scott.
He's got
Just kind of wrap things up the bow. So the 2023 project, this is 2 years from today, when we come to you. This really just wraps up the major scope of the bond. So there's not a lot of work in these buildings, but just to let you know, those buildings are also towards the end. That's roughly about, maybe it's 10 million in total, with about half of that Series 2 funds that will be sold at a later date. So we will start designing this work a couple months from now. The biggest thing though that does is included in here, we did include the bond to update media center district wide. To create more collaborative space, more modern learning. Right now, those media centers, the educational model moves past that. So that'll be the one major thing you'll see in the 2023 bond, is update the media center. That design work is gonna start in January, and we'll make sure to bring you some updates on what that means, what that's gonna look like for those media centers, to change them from the old library look or collaboration centers. Thank you very much. I'm gonna give you a quick update before the $20,000.
Are you going to, send this along to the other board members or,
Yes, you can, yeah.
yeah, just so that,
Thank you so much.
I'm perfectly, I appreciate this.
yeah,
I want to keep that, right?
yeah.
You can send it to Diane if you want to.
Yeah.
Have a good night.
Good night, Jeff, thank you.
November 1st, 2021 at 6:37. Please stand for the pledge.
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Again, welcome. It's great to be back in our normal boardrooms. I was just talking about it. March 2nd of 2020 was the best time we were in this building. So it's great to be back. It's much more hospitable towards the meetings, get closer to the public instead of being on the stage with that and so on. So could have been back here earlier, but there was some construction going on upstairs here at this building to accommodate our technology department. So we had to stay out a little bit longer than we wanted, but we're happy to be back. We're happy that you can come and join us this evening. Okay. Next up, item B, and let me just say that before I go any further, Ms. Hyden's excuse tonight, along with Mr. Wojtkowicz, their tonight's board meeting. Okay. B, additions and deletions, I have none. Addition presentations, I don't know if you have any evening, we'll table that for a minute. Yeah. Okay. We'll move that maybe to the administration reports. Yeah. Okay. Excellent. All right. Moving on to item D, general consent agenda. Can I have a motion?
Move.
Moved by Ms. Demixak.
Or
Ms. Quino. Anything in the consent agenda for like to remove or discuss further? Questions? Okay, hearing none. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Okay, motion passes. I believe we have two retirement resolutions to read in the record. Mr. Silva will be our acting secretary for tonight in place of Ms. Pine. Mr. Silva, can you please read those resolutions for us?
Sure. Whereas Teresa Martini and Vicky Majewski have served the Chippewa Valley School District faithfully and diligently for a period of 33 years, and the clerical unit 21 years as a teacher respectively. Whereas Teresa Martini and Vicky Majewski, through their leadership, have had a positive impact on the staff, students, and the community. Whereas Teresa Martini, it's Teresa Martini, and Vicky Majewski, conscientious, loyal, hardworking employees, have elected to retire. And whereas Teresa Martini and Vicky Majewski will be missed by all their school colleagues. Now therefore be it resolved, Board of Education of the Chippewa Valley School District, not only on their behalf, but also that of the superintendent of schools and the administration, extend their thanks and appreciation for a job well done, as well as best wishes for the future. Be it further resolved that this resolution, having been adopted by the Board of Education of the Chippewa Valley School District on the first day of November 2021, be made a permanent part of the records of the school district, and a copy sent to Teresa Martini and Vicky Majewski as an expression of our appreciation. Congratulations. Best wishes.
is
That Ms. Martinez, she had what, backup?
she's
Yeah. Okay, that's right, yeah. Yeah. Wish them all the best. Thank them for all their continued service in their districts through the years, dedication to our communities, make a better place. So wish them all the best in their retirement.
Is this Lenny here? The new hire? She.
Yes, I don't know, have they made a new hire here this year?
No.
Okay, and EO business, I have none to see. Now to F, new business. See. Next up will be G from the community. I have 3 slips this evening. Is there anybody else who wishes to speak to the board this evening? Okay, 3, this is customary, we'll just read the rules prior to starting. Start from there. Okay, as far as public participation at board meetings, each statement made by a participant shall be limited to 5 minutes duration. We'll give that 1 minute warning, except for, so let's, she's got time. Participants shall direct all comments to the board and not to staff or other participants. All statements shall be directed to the presiding officer. No person may address or question board members individually. Complaints against identifiable school personnel may not be expressed in an open meeting. Such complaints should first be submitted in writing to the board and aired in open or closed session according to the wish of the persons involved. The presiding officer may interrupt, warn, or terminate a participant's statement when the statement is too lengthy, personally directed, abusive, obscene, or irrelevant. Request that the individual to leave the meeting when that person does not observe reasonable decorum. Request assistance of law enforcement officers in removal of disorderly persons when that person's conduct interferes with the orderly progress of the meeting. Call for a recess or an adjournment to another time when the lack of public decorum so interferes with the orderly conduct of the meeting as to warrant such action. Waive these rules with the approval of the board, but necessary for protection of privacy for the administration of the board's business. Very good. Okay, as I said, we have 3 community members that want to address the board this evening. First up, we'll call Ms. Jessica St. Lawrence. St. Lawrence. Ms. St. Lawrence, thank you for coming this evening. Please share your comments with the board.
Thank you. Good evening. I was happily surprised to receive a phone call from Shawnee on October 18th indicating that a SAC director had been hired. I was asked to be patient while the kinks were still being worked out and the new director familiarized themselves with the SAC program. Today, November 1st, Shawnee parents' patience is wearing thin. We have been patient since March 13th, 2020, the last day that SAC was offered at Shawnee. We are now seeing that the director position has been filled, but are receiving frequent emails indicating that childcare aides now need to be hired. Much of my speech tonight was already stated at October 18th school board meeting. However, it bears repeating. Shawnee families will not allow a precedence of no SAC on site to be set. Should the district find itself in this awful situation again, please remember that Shawnee Elementary is your largest elementary school within the district. Shawnee families have backed the burden of no childcare for over a year and a half. While no family should have to endure what we have had to, the district would need to strongly consider having a multi-site license or putting another school in the rotation of alternate childcare site. I hope that this will never happen or be the case again, but at the same time, Shawnee families have had enough. Moving forward, I beg of the board again to please not give last minute notice like we received for the 2020-2021 school year and 2021-2022 school year. Finding out mere days before school started that no childcare was being made available on site. This was unacceptable. Last minute notice only intensifies parents' anxiety as they scramble for childcare and also deepens children's anxiety when everyone is touting about caring for their social emotional growth. The district should have communicated that there was no plan in place, giving families ample opportunity to plan, not scrambling at the last minute. Ask any family what they would have chosen, bad news with sufficient notice over what we were given, and I assure you that we would have chosen, and they would have chosen, bad news with sufficient notice. When I speak to the board, I often reference the abundance of generous state, federal, and local funding that school districts have received since March of 2020. True, there may be a national labor shortage, but people can and want to work if the money is right. Your current employees can and want to work, some of them taking on multiple jobs within and outside of the district, all while doing so with class, grace, and a smile. For that, we appreciate your current employees who have influenced and inspired our 4 children. Please reward them generously for their hard work as you have the funds to do so. These outstanding gems of employees that you have work tirelessly, thanklessly, and have far more of a physical and social emotional connection to our children than any higher level administration. That having been said, with competing daycares currently being built in Macomb off of Card, your wonderful Little Turtle staff will now more than likely be recruited to work at these new facilities. Please offer them the competitive wages that they deserve. As many of your community members' allegiance lies with these specific individuals. Many people will follow wherever they will go. Again, please reward them generously for their hard work. You have the funds to do so. Please do something now to show them your appreciation before it is too late. The next board meeting is our son's birthday, November 15th. We have given so much of our family's time that we will next see you at December 6th board meeting in hopes of reporting the implementation of Shawnee SAC. In closing, please be mindful that at the October 18th board meeting, a board member was ceremoniously sworn in to uphold the Constitution. Let that ceremony serve as a reminder that each of you were sworn in to do the same thing. That having been said, thank you for continuing to leave masking optional for families and for honoring this very basic fundamental freedom. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Allen, for your comments this evening. Okay, next up, Mr. Dan Sandler. Thank you for coming also, spending this time this evening. Please share your comments.
Thank you very much. My wife and I are both parents and public school teachers in Macomb County. We have 4 kids from ages 2 to 13 years old. Our children have attended Seneca, Shawnee, and Little Turtle. The staff have been instrumental in our kids' growth. We completely trust them with our kids. All of our kids have been through the SAC program at Shawnee, where they've been able to attend with their friends in a familiar setting. On March 10th, 2020, which was 602 days ago, the voters of Macomb County and Chippewa Valley Schools passed an enhancement millage. For the Macomb for Kids website, it states that the money raised by the millage can be spent on whatever priorities a local community chooses, giving them local control and the ability to make decisions based on the needs of its children and schools. Every penny generated from this proposal will be distributed to local school districts to maintain existing programs and improve services currently offered to students. SAC is an existing program, and it's a legitimate and expected school service. SAC has not been offered at Shawnee for the last 599 days. This existing program is not being maintained. There have been 599 days of financial savings by not offering SAC at Shawnee. Is it possible that these savings plus the millage could be used to attract appropriate staffing at Shawnee and retain current staff? On Monday, October 18th, shortly before the board meeting, we received a phone call stating that a solution to SAC at Shawnee is on the horizon. We were encouraged that speaking at board meetings helped move the process along. However, we have not heard any of the details and would appreciate hearing them soon. We are hoping that the horizon is not much further away, and we will continue to voice our concerns until a resolution is reached. In closing, from what we've heard at board meetings, it seems like sincere efforts are being made to solve this issue, which we appreciate. As parents and teachers, my wife and I firmly believe that masking is a choice to be made by parents and guardians for their children. The choice to mask or not should be respected by all stakeholders in the Chippewa Valley Schools community. Once again, thank you for keeping masking optional. Thank you.
For your comments this evening. Lastly, we have Ms. Rita Zielinski, and I got your notes.
This official notice is circulating around Michigan at present. Attorney General Dana Nessel, Secretary of State Jocelyn Benson, Governor Gretchen Whitmer, our state legislator, U.S. representatives, senators, mayors, city councils, county officials, judges, school boards, and sheriffs. We address you today regarding your failures of leadership and failures to protect the fundamental rights of your constituents. We, the people of this state, have called, emailed, protested, shown up at school boards, council meetings, and committee hearings. With one voice, we demanded for you to preserve and protect our freedoms. You were offered ample opportunities to address these issues, yet you stood by while an inept governor, tyrannical legislator, and overreaching mayors, fascist city and county councils, politically motivated judges, and unaccountable federal leviathan destroyed our state. You stood by while tyrants attacked our most basic rights to live and work freely, using fear and tyranny to lock us in our homes and attack our rights to bodily autonomy. You stood by while jobs, schools, weddings, funerals, reunions, festivals, concerts, football games were shut down, yet millions freely marched in our streets for months. You stood by while our kids were deprived of an education and muzzled by political pseudoscience. You stood by while the Department of Justice, driven by the National School Boards Association, used its power of influence to silence and intimidate parents from defending their kids at school board meetings. You stood by while lockdowns forced 1/3 of Michigan businesses to shut their doors with the majority permanently closed. You stood by while experimental drugs and the most dangerous and deadly vaccines of 30 years were forced upon us at the gun of economic ruin. You stood by as occupancy, mask, and vaccine mandates from incompetent mayors disproportionately crushed African-American communities and continue to do so. You stood by while officials who swore to uphold the constitutional freedoms labeled your constituents as conspiracy theorists for daring to question massive, serious, clear as day security issues in the November 3rd, 2020 election. You stood by while Dominion CEO John Pullis committed perjury during the December 15th Michigan Senate Oversight Committee hearing and have not investigated the certification of Michigan's election machines that were not certified in accordance to the mandatory EAC testing and certification program, as Mr. Pullis testified. You stood by while our Secretary of State continues to allow us to vote on outdated election machines that have not been certified since 2017. You stood by while the Michigan Antrim County audit uncovered vulnerabilities in our election systems. You have not taken steps to correct 2020's election nor protect future elections. You stood by as Secretary of State Jocelyn Benson bypassed the administrative rule-making process with her directive that local election clerks presume absentee ballot signatures were valid, violating the Administrative Procedures Act. You stood by while Arizona's audit uncovered how vulnerable our election systems are, and yet people have not seen you take any actions to restore the faith in election integrity. You stood by as Dr. Anthony Fauci and the NIH lied about the origins of the virus and the funding of gain-of-function research that created it. This led to lost response time and political pressure on China that cost thousands of lives. You stood by as Governor Whitmer's nursing home policies cost thousands of lives. You stood by while people were not provided adequate care in hospitals, denied access to their loved ones, violated medical power of attorney rights, and not allowed the right to try, therefore culminating in death of patients. Perhaps most appallingly, you stood by and allowed the same corrupt FDA, CDC, and NIH to ban effective treatments for COVID in favor of more expensive experimental treatments that are now killing people. These actions cost the lives of thousands of Americans, including hundreds of Michiganders whose blood are on your hands. It does not matter what victories you have achieved when you have not even stepped up to the biggest and most important fights in our history. You have failed the state, you have failed the country, and you have failed the people. We no longer consent to this failed governance. You stood by while the citizens you swore to protect, deprive them of their constitutional rights secured through the blood, sweat, and tears of our forefathers and foremothers. You can now resign or stand by and watch as we remove every one of you with your positions and take back our beloved state. Your time is up. Regards, we the people of Michigan.
Thank you for sharing your comments this evening. That'll do it for community comment. Thank you again all for coming and spending time with us this evening. From there, we move on to H, union communications. Is there any union leadership that wishes to speak to the board this evening? Seeing none, move on to I, administration reports. Mr. Roberts.
I have a couple of things this evening. First, in your board packets this evening, we have just an update related regarding COVID. The same kind of figures that I've been sharing with you over the last several meetings where we are in the district. The only thing I would point out this week is, these numbers, especially 7-day rolling averages in our county tend to have been going along at about the same level for the last over the last month. Positivity rate, all that stuff's pretty much the same. The COVID cases we're dealing with schools have been a little bit up and down, even elementary increase this time. But it shows numbers that were similar to that back at the end of September. So what's happening in our schools kind of reflects what's going on in our county. The biggest increase we've seen in COVID cases in our school district over the last 2 weeks is at the middle school level. And it seems to be that sometimes COVID seems to move in kind of waves through certain places, and it's hit middle school in the last 2 weeks. High school is a little bit better this week, but high school still could be a challenge. So the quarantining rules are advantageous for our students to be able to stay in school. So quarantine numbers are low. And we're still making progress and are pretty close to be able to offer the parents the third option to shorten quarantines by doing daily testing. So we're not too far away from launching that. It's just going to take a little bit more time. There's just some things that need to be done with that. So that's where COVID is right now, as far as how it is impacting our schools. And again, you know, your commitment as a board to providing live streaming and our teachers taking that on, because that is something that requires attention when you're teaching. To do that has made it good for our kids. So for something that can be so negative, there are some positives in dealing with it. So if you don't have any questions specifically about that, I just want to move on to some good things that are going on in our school district that I think are noteworthy. Okay, we'll do that. All right, so we do have a lot of wonderful things going on in our school district this year. Our goal, of course, at the onset of the school year was to get our kids in school and keep them there. And I think we're doing fairly well at that. You know, there is some frustration when kids are quarantined, and it happens multiple times, and that is a concern. But good news, you can move it forward, Sarah, please. And I want to start here. I'll start with high schools, but before I get into this some of the information on this slide, is this is November 1st, and October was principal or school administrator recognition month, and I really want to thank our building principals for what they do. So much of dealing with what we're dealing with over the last 18 months really falls onto them, because they're managing buildings, they're working with staff, they're working with parents, they're working with students, and I just want to commend our administrators for the hard work that they've engaged in and work that they never expected that they would do, but they've done admirably and with much enthusiasm and effort. So thank you to our building administration. We have a lot of things going on this year. We have our athletic programs. They've all run this year. Right now they continue the fall sports. We have both high school football teams in state playoffs. I believe we still have our Dakota volleyball team in the state tournament. We have band and choir having their activities. I know bands are in competitions right now, and our bands are doing the same thing. They have concerts at their schools. Dakota recently completed a concert with which they call collage concert. So we've really made an effort to provide our kids with as normal of an experience as we can this year. We are proceeding with National Honor Society inductions at our high schools. We've had Mo Keegan taking up pumpkin carving, which is very important. I mean, this is the kind of activities right now some of our kids just need to engage in so that they can re-engage in school and the importance of being in school and being with others. We've had spirit weeks and homecomings at both the high schools. We've had parades at both high schools. So we've really, I think our administration and our staff has done a good job of providing these activities for our students. At our middle schools, again, the National Junior Honor Society, we have inductions going on at our schools across our district. They've conducted spirit weeks also. I'd like to note Wyandottes volleyball team, which was undefeated this year, and the first time since I think it was 2001 they did that. And all of our middle schools have engaged in fundraising walks, which they do on the school property. And those are important to the schools for all the extras that are provided to kids in the building. So I think the kids have had as close to a normal experience as they can under difficult circumstances. At our elementary schools, I want to recognize our PTOs. Our PTOs have taken on so much. Their commitment to our schools and their dedication of time is what really makes a difference at our elementary schools. This was supposed to be, I've had truck on here, I think. It's a trunk or treat, not a truck or treat, but you can use a truck for your trunk or treat. Almost all schools have had, this is a whole hot thing now, is to have a trunk or treat. And I'm astounded by the level of participation in activities like this. I heard from a large northern school that they had 450 kids come around to their trunks with possibly about 1,000 people in attendance. and all outdoors. I heard at a smaller southern school, they had 350 students out, so this is a big deal. And a lot of that happened in absolutely awful weather last Friday evening. So I'm not sure if there are some pictures on here, and thankfully all these people had the foresight to go to places like Costco and Sam's and buy those little canopies to put over their trunks, so kids would stay dry at least when they were getting their candy. So we've had virtual book fairs, and we've had very successful virtual book fairs in which schools won certain, you get to a certain level and you get certain kind of recognition from the company. So when you can't really conduct the book fair the way you've normally done it, you can do it virtually and it can still be very successful. And this is all, so much is this done by our PTOs in our elementary schools. Online donation drives. Schools responded saying they set records with participation in these. And also a lot of our elementaries have done school walks. So these are things that kids love to do. And that sort of extra funding is very important in schools. Also, I think noteworthy here is that Cheyenne received a $1,700 donation for a sensory room from Freddie the Pizza Man Foundation. Now, Freddie is from Melvindale, and he supports programs for autism awareness, where he just gets grants from everywhere and he supports them. And he made a grant to Cheyenne of $1,700 for their sensory room, which is used for students with autism. So thank you to this person. We have his picture there. And to think that he would raise money in Melvindale and donate it to a school in Chippewa Valley, I think is very admirable. It's a good use of human time to work so hard to give to others. So on the last slide here, some of the things that are going on across all levels, which impact all of us. All of our schools in some way during this time of year engage in activities to support others who are less fortunate. So we have a lot of food drives through Kiwanis and organizations like that. Our schools participate. And I know that our kids are always really, it's exciting to our students to be able to help others. We also have our foundation, which contributes to our educational program and funds different programs in our school district. They're in a fundraising campaign right now. And so a letter from them is going out to the community. And also we do Stuff-A-Bus, which is donations on a school bus. And the bus will be on November 6th and 7th outside the Walmart at up here on Romeo Plankin at 59. And a lot of that is coordinated through our transportation department. And I know our bus drivers take great pride in doing this for the community. So those are some of the things we have going on leading up to the holiday time. We also have on the last slide here, this is the musical. We have a little promo for the musical here that will be held, I think, maybe next week. 6th and 7th, it's in this week, is that right? I think it is. This week and next week at Chippewa Valley High School. So Sarah, if we could run that, please.
What do the Grinch, the Cat in the Hat, Horton the Elephant, and all the Who's down in Whoville have in common?
I am Gertrude McFuzz.
My name is JoJo.
I am playing Horton the Elephant. So I'm Cat in the Hat.
It's not just a musical.
Overall message of the show is truly heartwarming. Everybody will leave with their heart full and not a dry eye in the audience.
JoJo, hello! Big numbers, funny characters. Do we want a little bit of release? Do we want a little bit of color? And do we want a little bit of joy?
The tall's the tall, the small's the small, come one, come young and all. And it truly leaves you walking away feeling like, wow, I am important and I am loved. And that is something that I want everybody to feel.
The talent is there, the will, the drive, the passion, and the thoughtfulness, and I really hope a lot of these kids go into acting and go into performing because they're fantastic.
All that we've been through, sometimes I think it's remarkable that we're to this point, that we're doing activities like this. And if you listen to these students talk about what they're doing and what it means to them, when someone says, the audience will leave with a thought of I'm important, I'm loved. And I just think it's a great experience for our students to be involved in, and you can see it's a lot more than about singing and dancing. It's about a message that you send the audience out with. So with that, I think there's a lot of wonderful things going on at Chippewa Valley Schools, and we're having a great year. So thank you. That's it. That's our administration reports this evening.
Anything for curriculum this evening?
Nothing this evening.
2K, I'm gonna buy a board. Board members' comments. Yeah, it's gonna be a quick comment here. Regarding some community comments tonight, about the board sitting around doing nothing. I think that this board has done a marvelous, fantastic job of navigating through this course of COVID. We're not far right, we're not far left, we're not Republicans, we're not Democrats. We're right in the middle. As you see, we have the war table has mask on it, don't. We've tried to steer through the middle of this. Best we can. There's no playbook for it. Not listening far right, not listening far left. We're through it. It's best for students in our district to keep them safe in our minds. That's what we're elected to do. We're doing our jobs. So that's why I'm making the comment. And that's it. Okay, moving on to L, executive session. Executive session, attorney-client privilege 8H. And we have
I'll move that we go
motion
Or
moved by Mr. Pearl, supported by Ms. Quino. Roll call vote, please. Mr. So.
Mr. Pearl. Yes. Lino.
yes.
Yes.
South, yes.
Yes.
Well, this is all.
Okay, we'll move into executive session at 7:10. Thank you, everybody, for attending this evening. We will be adjourning following the executive sessions.
Mr. Chairman, will we be going, will we be voting on anything coming out of?
Not that I'm aware of.
Plans to. So I think the best place for the executive session is in this room.
Okay.
All right. And so, Sarah, is that a problem with shutting down the mics and all that?
I just need 1 minute.
Okay. All right. So just for our guests that are here, I just want to say that if you want to come in for the end, all you need to do is wait out in the lobby. There's some couches out there and that. And we'll open the doors and go into open session after this.
Okay.
You're good.
Okay, we're back in open session at 7:53. And I need a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Moved by Mr. Pearl.
Support.
Supported by Ms. Dominguez Zek. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
I
Opposed? Passes. So we're adjourned. Thank you, everybody, and we will see you 7:54. Is adjourned. Thank you. Good night.